ceasefire is only happening in Gaza, but the onslaught is still happening at the Al-Aqsa compound with threats from the Israelis that they are going to bomb the Al-Aqsa mosque. So dire situation indeed. Let's then talk to Mabrur Ahmed and his thoughts on this matter and what exactly is actually playing out as far as Restless Beings is concerned. What sort of pressure are they putting on the UK government on this whole situation, the Israeli-Palestinian situation, or rather, should I say, the Palestinian-Israeli situation, because this land was stolen from its rightful owners, the Palestinian people. Assalamu alaikum to you. Welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure entirely. Tell us a little bit about Restless Beings. How long are you in operation? And, what sort of cases do you take up and whom do you engage with? Is it only the government or other civil society organizations to try and get...
Absolutely.
Carry on.
Absolutely. I hope your listeners are familiar with our work. We've been on many of your shows for the past, I would say, almost 9-10 years. We've been around for about 15 years. We work on marginalized communities around the globe. I've especially been on, your radio station to talk about the Rohingya issue and to talk about things that are happening in Burma and Bangladesh, especially, and in India. So yeah, we take on all types of we cover all types of humanitarian and human rights issues, and we focus on as I just mentioned, on two aspects. One, on the humanitarian response, so that's actually working with communities, actually working with society in order to try and find solutions that are long lasting and that will help the persecuted community come away from problems, and also on that doesn't happen just by the community working themselves. Most often than not, that means we have to talk with and engage with governments as well, not just the UK government, and many other governments as well.
Alhamdulillah.
So that's sort of work that we do.
Alhamdulillah, I do know that you're very familiar with us here at Salam Media, and we also know that you play a very, very active role as far as humanitarian issues are concerned. I only ask the question for perhaps first-time listeners to our radio station. So
absolutely, I'm glad you did. I'm very glad that you did. Everyone needs a reintroduction every now and then.
Absolutely. So now, when we look at the issue, what are you calling for now as far as petitioning your government, knowing that, they are directly responsible for the situation that we're sitting with right now, the uprising, the atrocities, the genocide in Palestine, because they signed that Balfour Declaration. It was a situation they couldn't deal with back then in the 1940s. So they really are directly responsible for this. How do you view the whole situation?
Well, absolutely. I think, so far as what we're asking for from our UK government, and to be honest with you, that's practically any government in the world. First things first is there should absolutely be no trade, especially in terms of arms, between the UK and Israel, or like I said, for that matter, any country in Israel. My country, the UK, we've been responsible for around about £400 million worth of trade. And the UK has a very shady way of dealing with Israel, as it doesn't do with any other country in the world. With every other country in the world, it's a part of our law that our government has to actually list and make a statement of how much in trade, how much in arms is traded between governments. With Israel, the only government that it does this with, it has an official statement, and then it has something called an open license. And an open license means basically that between the UK and Israel, trade is allowed, which doesn't have to be declared. And that really amounts to hundreds more millions of pounds that are traded between the UK and Israel. And we know for a fact that most of these kind of unlisted trade of arms equates to military equipment like drones, missiles, grenades, aircraft is our biggest kind of export from the UK to Israel as well. And, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that actually this weaponry has been used against the Palestinian people, especially the women and children, and not only in recent days, but actually for a very long time. So our very first call is to absolutely halt all trade between the UK and Israel. The second thing, and you've already kind of mentioned this, is to actually recognize the UK's historic involvement, and not only just involvement, it is the leading the leading partner in the Zionist movement of Israel, and that is through the Balfour Agreement. And time and time again, although the US has been the major financier of Israel's not only just creation but Israel's stabilization, it's the UK that was the conceiver of the creation of the State of Israel, and the conceiver of the theft of land from the Palestinian people. And so with that in mind, actually what we're asking for is that the UK should show strong and decisive leadership and actually seek to take Israel to the United Nations Security Council and pass resolutions, not only to just end cessation of violence, but also the ongoing misery that heaped upon the Palestinian people. And the third thing, and I think this is really the most vital thing, and I've heard a lot of people talking in recent times, and in the recent last 2 weeks, of course, emotions have been running very, very highly. We have to remember, actually, the prosecutor of the ICC, the International Criminal Court, has already requested an investigation into war crimes by Israel. And that's kind of going back to 2014, 2015. But, what's happened in recent weeks, without question, is war crimes. When you're opening fire and you're dropping bombs on civilian populations, that's without question a war crime. When you're going into a place of worship and you are firing upon worshippers who are not even engaged in what you're claiming them to be, that's definitely, without question, a war crime. And when you have a wall that's going up that separates the West Bank and Gaza away from the rest of the population, if you like, in another part of Israel, that's apartheid. And so what we need to do is we now need governments to jump on board and support the ICC in its investigation. And what we've had, especially from the UK government, has been a lot of kind of resistance towards the ICC and whether or not the ICC is even allowed to do this case. So we need that stance to physically change and to verbally change, and there to be statements made on that. And I think if we have a combination of the three things that I've just mentioned, it will show the world some degree of leadership that the tide has finally changed on Israel. And I think it's absolutely required for our government to do that, and all governments to do that, because the feeling and the emotion that's there amongst the people now is no longer one of tolerance toward the state, which is without question terrorizing populations in the Palestinian occupied territories.
And still, despite what you've just outlined now, the threat of Israel being charged with war crimes, the ICC stepping in. We have Joe Biden, as last week, suggesting that the Israelis had every right, or have every right, to protect themselves, and is also wanting to sign off. Whether Congress will pass it or not is another matter altogether. But that multi-billion-dollar arms deal with Israel, and you kind of wonder why such a lot of arms for such a minute amount of people. You're talking about what, a couple of million people in that part of the world, and how much more arms does Israel need to wipe out this tiny population of Palestinians? What is the cost not only to American taxpayers, but to Palestinian lives? And just how big is the arms industry globally? And whom is it serving? Where's the money's going? Are the rich getting richer as far as the arms industry is concerned?
Well, the arms industry, and what I'm trying to say to you is that the economy of the world is driven by the arms industry. It's quite pertinent that whenever an economy is in trouble, the very first thing that tends to happen is that there tends to be some sort of armed incursion or some sort of armed movement, because that's the one thing. If you want to stimulate your economy, the one thing that stimulates your economy more than anything else in the world is war, and is the use of arms and the procurement of arms and the selling of arms.
War is big business. As we know, war is big business
absolutely
for the first world countries, and it's the poor third world countries, the African countries, and people like the Palestinian people who suffer the most.
Well, yes, absolutely. I wouldn't just put the blame squarely at the first world country, because what happens is, the so-called third world countries are normally full of despotic leaders, and the one thing that despotic leaders want to do is they want to secure their position, and the only way to secure their position is through arms, right? So it's I think it was Shakespeare that once said, "Security is man's mortal enemy." Right? For the sake of wanting to be secure, everything that is, the morality of man will absolutely disappear in order to just be secure. So, and what does security mean in the modern age? Security in the modern age means absolute surveillance on your population, absolute surveillance on your surrounding populations, and it means, making sure that you have weaponry to not only destroy your own population if need be, but to destroy other populations that might come from elsewhere as well. And so, what you're really having, therefore, is an entire world system that's built on, the advancement of warfare against populations that probably will never ever declare a war on the governments that are supposedly protecting them. So again, it comes down to absolutely, and but not one that we can be surprised with. It's not one that's something that's suddenly happened. This has been the case for the last, and at the very least, for the last 150 years, possibly longer than that.
Okay, so Mabrur, that being said, and this is all important information that, we need to understand. And guess what? You and I, as taxpayers, wherever you might be in the world, we're actually funding, these arms industries. Unfortunately, we don't even realize it, and we also know Big Brother is watching us all the time as well. So, what sort of a world are we living in? But that being said, Mabrur, in terms of petitions that you're signing and presenting to your government, what sort of perhaps assurances or guarantees are you expecting to get from the UK government? Or support?
Well, absolutely zero. To be honest with you, that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting absolutely zero, because this government has proven time and time again that it's not a partner of human rights, but it is a partner of creating human misery. But the point isn't about what do I expect the government to do. How do I expect the government to respond? My expectation is in our civil society, right? And the expectation on civil society is one that's founded. The expectation on government is unfounded. Our government in the UK here hasn't done anything to support human rights in its time since 2019 that it's been re-elected. We show no care towards genocide cases. We don't even cut down humanitarian response. Right? So I don't expect anything from our UK government. But what I do expect civil society to come around, to gather around, and to be unified, to be stronger. To put together in one voice that we can at least agree a few things, common factors on a few things, that a state which is bombing children and women indiscriminately should not be funded, A, by taxpayers' money, B, that considering that it's happened, that we should investigate it, and C, to make sure that any investigation that's happening from a world court is supported by our government. So we're not asking for anything radical from civil society. I think civil society and civil society organizations and general public can rally around these types of messages. We're not asking for anything wild. For example, the UK to engage in conversation with the legitimately voted Hamas government. We're not asking for that. We're not asking for Israel to be wiped off the map, right? We're not asking for anything like that. We're asking for very simple things. If our weapons have been used for killing of children, we should investigate it and we should make sure that that never happens again. And the second thing is, whatever crimes have been committed, the ICC wants to investigate it. Let's support them in their investigation and let's not impede them. Let's not be impediments to justice.
And restless beings will pursue this till you see some form of acknowledgement for what you're asking. You're not going to give up on
Oh, absolutely. It doesn't matter if it takes 50 years to do this. Absolutely. There's no way on God's earth that we will stop without. The very, very first thing is for the recognition of the crimes that have been committed, either in support or directly against the Palestinian people. And the second thing is until the Palestinian people are free. And in fact, all marginalized people are free from their oppressors as well.
Good on you, Mabrur Ahmed, and your organization. Keep that flag flying high, inshallah. Nice talking to you. Till the next time, as always, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
A strip of land with over 2 million people blockaded for 13 years. Healthcare is on its knees, food is scarce, and water is inadequate. COVID has wreaked havoc in the lives of the people of Gaza. 53% of the population live below the poverty line. 80% of Gaza relies on external aid to survive, and 20,000 children are now orphans. The future is bleak. Please, don't forget Gaza. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Motala Perfumes, one of the biggest perfume manufacturing houses in Africa, with a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility specializing in designing, creating, developing and producing new scents and matching designer fragrances for all our stores, as well as private labeling for individuals and companies across Africa. Visit your nearest Motala Perfumes store or visit our website at www.motalaperfumes.com for more information on creating your own brand.
Mates Linen pop-in store for these amazing deals. Quilts from 170 Rand. Private collection standard pillows, twin pack from 80 Rand. Pierre Cardin duvet covers from 250 Rand. Assorted scatters from 100 Rand. We are stockers of Linen House range and designer curtains by Stuart Graham. Let Mates Linen turn your house into a home. Mates Linen branded outlet. 202 Brickfield Road, Overport, Durban. Call us on 031 209 0176.
A man of charm.
When we look at the morning, we thank Allah Ta'ala for the beauty of the morning.
Bouncy and bubbly.
Have you ever heard of a first world country that was governed by blacks?
Barack Obama in the United States is a black guy, Mr. Euster. He's swart, is okay.
Yeah, that's true, but he's not black. He's actually colored.
Mr. Euster.
A man of passion.
What about the many little kids that are dying? Is there enough attention the government is giving to this particular topic and subject?
A fighter for justice.
I'm not saying anything, no allegations, no claims. What do you believe you did wrong in Orion Cold Storage for the situation it finds itself in now?
A guardian of the public interest.
Corruption in South Africa includes the private use of public resources, bribery, and improper favoritism.
A seeker of the truth.
But at the end of the day, the facts and the truth is something that has to be revisited.
A father to us all.
It will not probably be something affecting us now, but 20 years down the line, our children are going to be badly scarred by this evil of pornography like they are with music today.
A pioneer of Islamic radio.
What should be the response of the Ummah? What should basically happen on such type of situations?
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity. Listen to something fresh.